Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and to another video. So some days ago I shared with you guys a screenshot of me installing Arch Linux ARM on Parallels desktop on an M1 Mac, and many of you were interested to know how it can be done, so this is a video about it. Now I know there is Asahi Linux which is actually working on Metal directly on an M1 Mac, but I'm gonna do maybe a video about this in the future. In this video it's really about installing Arch Linux on Parallels desktop with the ability also to use a browser, for example, to watch videos. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Here I'm going to show you something a little bit special, and that is how to install Arch on Parallels desktop on a M1 Mac. So this is something many of you asked me, and so this video it's about that. Now you can install actually on Parallels on a M1 Mac many Linux distributions like Debian and Fedora. Every distribution which has an ARM ISO, you can actually install it. Now Arch is a little special because we need to build the system ourselves, and that's what I'm going to show you in this video. So this is the Arch wiki page talking about Parallels desktop. And as you can see here, we have one paragraph which is saying Parallels desktop on an Apple Mac M1 and higher. So when you click here, it tells you basically that we have two options. One is to use Arch boot to install a VM as you like it. Basically, you can build it. Or if you want a pre-built image, you can download also from here a pre-built ISO. Now, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use Arch boot because it's going to allow us to install the desktop environment of our choice. So once you click this link here, you're going to be brought here to the Arch boot wiki. And Arch boot, as it says here, is our most advanced modular Arch Linux boot install image creation utility to generate reproducible bootable media designed for installation or rescue operations. So now here in the wiki, you can click the Arch64 architecture, which is the ARM architecture. And here you can read the latest informations, or you can download the ISO. Now I downloaded already the ISO, so I don't need to do this. And then once you have downloaded the ISO, you're set to go. So let's close Safari. And let's open up here the Parallels desktop program. And I don't want to download and install Windows 11. Thank you very much. So we have already the ISO downloaded. So what I'm going to do here, because Arch is not going to be automatically recognized from Parallel, I'm going to click here, select DVD or image file, and click continue. And it's going to look here for the image, but it's not finding it. So I'm going to choose manually and select the file. I'm going to go to downloads. And you can see I have here Arch Linux Arch boot for the ARM architecture. So I'm just going to click open. And it's unable to detect the operating system. That's fine. We don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to click continue. And we need to select the operating system. So I'm going to go to other Linux and click OK. And you can choose the name here. So I'm going to select here Arch Linux. And the save to folder is fine. And I'm just click here, customize settings before installation. I'm not going to change much, but I just want to show you here what's coming. So here we have general options, nothing really to see here. What I want to show you here is under hardware. So here we have the CPUs and memory. 2 is recommended. The memory is already selected by 3 gigabytes. That's fine. And for graphics, for now, I'm going to let it at scale. And if it's not going to work well, I'm going to change it to more space, which is going to give you basically the full resolution for Retina displays. Although this is actually a normal monitor, so not really interested here. Now you can change also some other options if you need, but for the default install, for me, it's fine. So I can close this and click continue. So it's going to start the machine in a moment. And I'm going to actually here go full screen. And you can see we have some tools here, but the one I want to start is the first one, Arch Linux AA64 Arch boot. So this is basically a script which is going to help you install Arch. So it's going to take a moment here to start up. And as you can see here, we have several options. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these. What I'm going to do here, I'm just going to hit enter, which is going to start the setup script. So I'm just going to hit enter. And you can see here, welcome to the Arch Linux installation program. So this is going to basically accompany you to the base install. And by base install, I mean disk partitioning, Wi-Fi setup or network setup, and base packages install. That's all there is to it. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And the first menu here is set keyboard and console font. So I'm going to hit OK here, and I'm going to set the key map first. So I have a Swiss German keyboard, so I'm just going to select it down here. That's the one. And set the console font. Now here we have several fonts to choose from, but the biggest resolution I have here is 16. So I'm going to go with the Terminus font here and hit OK. And now I can return to the main menu. So next step is set up the network. So I'm going to click OK. Now this is the only interface I have here. And is your network device wireless? In my case, no. Do you want to use DHCP? I'm going to say yes for now. And do you want to use a DH client instead of DHCPD? I'm going to say no in my case. And I'm going to accept the settings here. And the network profile, that's fine. I'm going to select just the default. And I don't need any proxy, so I'm just going to hit OK. And it's going to attempt now to set up my network link. So this should take just a couple of seconds. There you go. So select the source. So you can select here the mirror. You have a selection here of mirrors available. I'm going to choose the EU mirror because it's pretty fast for me. And here, do you want to update the Arch boot environment to latest packages with caching packages for installation? Now, this is going to use a little bit more space, but I'm not going to do this in this video. I just want to have a plain installation. And set time and date. So I'm going to select the time zone. In my case, this is Europe. And it's Zurich, which is always at the end of the list. There you go. Set date and time. So I want to use UTC. In my case, I'm going to say yes. And I want to check if everything is correct here. It looks correct to me, so I can select yes. So NTPD was detected on your system. Do you want to use NTPD to sync your clock? NTPD is the network time protocol, so I'm going to select yes. And it's going to take a couple of seconds to do this, so don't worry if it seems to be frozen. And so now we are done. So I can select OK and return to the main menu. Now prepare the storage drive. So here you have several options. I'm not going to go into much in-depth information here about how you set up your storage. I'm going to choose for this video an auto prepare. So it's going to basically erase the entire disk. So I'm just going to select OK here and enter the mount point of your UEFI system partition. Default is boot. So if you want to use boot, you can select this, or if you want to use another partition, you can also edit this. I'm going to select the default. And you have chosen to use boot as a UEFI sys mount point. The minimum partition size is 260 megabyte and only FAT32 FS is supported, of course. So I'm just going to select OK. And for the size, I'm going to say for this partition 300, that's the size in megabytes, and OK. Now for the swap partition here, I'm going to create a 512 megabytes swap partition. It's a very small partition, that's fine for me. And the root and home partition are going to be selected automatically. So I'm going to use for this video ext4. And ext4 will be used for root and home. Is this okay? Yes, thank you. Now enter the size of the root partition. So the size of the disk, you can see there, it's around 68 gigabytes. So I'm going to give the root, let's say 40,000 megabytes, which leaves the rest then for the home. So the rest is going to be used for home. Is this okay? Yes. So the data will be completely erased. Are you absolutely sure? I am. And so now it's going to basically partition the disk, format the partitions, and mount them. So this is going to take a moment. And now it's asking us to select the device name scheme you want to use in these configuration files. Now you can use the part UUID, you can use the label, you can use the UUIDs of the partition as you wish. So in my case, I'm going to select just the first one here and hit OK. And now it's going to create the mount points and also generate the file system table where all the mount points are stored. And it's now creating also my boot partition and now my home partition. So auto prepare was successful, continuing in 3 seconds. There you go. So we are back to the installer and now we can select install packages. Now it's going to refresh first the package database. This is basically a pacman-sy. And so the next step will install the following packages for a minimal system. So we are going to install file system, base, Linux, which is the latest Linux kernel, E2FS procs, DOS FS tool, systemd, system5 compat, AMD-U code, netctl, dhcpcd, wpa supplicant, and lvm2 crypt setup, mdadm, nano, and v. So these are the basic packages. The rest we will have to set it up ourselves. So let's go ahead here and hit yes. And so this is going to take a moment, and if you want to see the progress in the console, you can hit Alt F7. If not, you can just wait here until the setup is done. So I'm going to cut the video here, guys, and I'll be back with you once it's finished. So the packages were installed successfully, and we are into the next step here, which is, would you like to copy Pacman GPG files to the installed system? So I'm going to say yes in my case, and now we can go ahead and configure our system. So I'm just going to hit OK. So you can choose here the editor. You can choose between Nano and Vim, up to you here. I'm going to choose Vim because I'm used to it. And here you can choose basically some of the files in your system. So I'm going to change my host name. Now it's very small there on the top left corner, but I'm just going to enter here arch arm and delete my host name and save this file and exit Vim. And I'm not going to change anything else here because everything is okay. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to set the root password. So I'm going to enter the password and retype it. And that's done. So we can return. And it's going to rebuild now the initram fs, although I didn't really change much in there, but that's all. So now we can install the bootloader. So I'm going to hit OK. And it's going to again refresh the database one more time. And it's going to ask us if we want to install a UEFI bootloader for the system. And because this is a UEFI machine, we are going to say absolutely yes. And that's the case here. So I'm going to say yes. And you can choose between EFI stub and grub EFI. It's really up to you. This is more similar to systemd boots. If you like grub, you can install grub. It's really up to you. Here I'm going to choose grub in this case. And again, it's going to install these two packages, AFI and AFI Boot Manager, and also grub. So it's going to take another couple of seconds here to install. I'm going to pause the video again here, guys, and I'll be back with you when we are on to the next step. So installation is complete and continuing in 3 seconds. You can see now it is installing grub, and that means it's going to install the package, create a configuration file, and then we are going to be done with the installation. That means afterwards we are going to be able to reboot our system and we'll need to finish up the installation ourselves. So continuing in 3 seconds, setting up grub now. This needs some time. So again, I'm going to skip here and be back with you in a moment. So now you must review the grub configuration file. You will be put into the editor. After you save your changes, exit the editor. So we got a chance here to change, but actually here we don't want to change anything manually like this. So I'm just going to quit this file and continuing in 3 seconds. And do you want to install another bootloader? I'm going to say no. And now exit install. So I'm just going to hit OK here. And you can see there on the top, it says if the install finished successfully, you can type reboot. So let's reboot our machine. So here we have grub. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit the E key here. And I'm going to go on the Linux line here and add the video parameter, video equal, and then the resolution of my monitor, which is 2560 by 1440, and then start the system with Control X. This I'll have to add it in the grub configuration file later so that I have to do it only once here. So here we go, we have the login prompt. We need to log in as a root user because we don't have any other user yet, and the password. And we don't have to worry about those messages. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to install the Terminus font so that I can increase the font size. This is going to take a moment. There you go. So I can type in now set font ter-132n, and it's much easier to read for you guys as well. So now, first thing first, let's create a user for our system. And we do that with user add -m to creating also the home directory. And the username of my choice is Hermano. And I'm going to give also a password to the user. So pass wd on Hermano, select the password and retype it. And this is now done, password updated successfully. And I can also add now the user to the wheel group. So I can do this by typing user mod -a capital G on wheel to the username. So I'm adding basically the wheel group to Hermano to giving sudo privileges. So this is now done. And so let's install something. I would say let's do pacman-s. I'm going to install Xorg. I'm going to install Plasma for the KDE desktop environment. A very simple install here, basic install of Plasma. And the terminal is console. And I'm going to install also package kit Qt5 and also SDDM, the display manager. So I'm just going to hit enter here and accept the defaults. And that's also fine here. This is also fine. And proceed with installation. Yes. So again, this is going to take a moment to download and install the packages. And I'll cut the video here, guys. And I'll be back with you in a second. So the packages are installed. We need to enable also SDDM, the display manager. So systemctl enable SDDM. And this is also done. And now we can reboot the system. So I'm going to type in reboot. So here we have our grub bootloader. So let's boot this up. And if everything went well, we should be greeted by the SDDM display manager. There you go. So we can enter our password here. And we should be greeted by KDE. And here we have KDE. So some things are missing here because we didn't install everything in KDE, but that's fine. I don't need, this is just one example video. Then you can use your fantasy here to build your system. So the first thing, let's pull up the settings and go down here to about the system. You can see we have Arch Linux ARM here running on the 5.17 kernel. Now let's close this and let's pull up the console. I'm going to increase the font size. And I'm going to switch to the root user because we haven't installed the sudo package. So pacman-s and then sudo. Otherwise, I won't be able to use this with my user. So sudo is now installed, so I can exit here with Control D. And let's install here one browser. So let's type in sudo pacman-s and then Firefox and hit enter. So I need to authenticate. And you can see there Hermano is not in the sudoers file. And that's because we need to activate the wheel group. So let me switch again to the root user, clean up the terminal and type in editor equal vim and then vice sudo and then hit enter. So we are going to go down here until we find the wheel group. So we have two of these as usual. We need to activate the first one because I do want to type the password when I use sudo. So I can save this. There you go. So I can hit Control D and now I can type in sudo pacman-s and then Firefox. And so we can install our browser. And let's see if everything works also in the browser. So this is now installed. We can close the console and let's pull up here Firefox. And so here we have Firefox. I would say let's go to YouTube. I'm just going to pick here one video and see if the video can play just fine, which I believe it will. So I'm just going to select one here and let's see. So you can see video is also playing fine. Now I have the audio muted. That's why you don't hear anything, but you can also watch videos here. That's great. So this is a basic install of Arch Linux ARM here on parallel desktop with the M1 Mac. Now let me also, the last thing here, pull up console and type in again free-h. So we are using about 480 megabytes of RAM, which is actually not bad at all. And if I make cat/etc/fstab, you can see the partitions here, how they are mounted and the UUIDs. And if I type in cat/etc/os release, you can see this is Arch Linux ARM. So this was it for this video, guys. If you have any question, let me know in the comments below. Again, as I said before, you can install any Linux distribution which has an ARM ISO. And I tested this also with Fedora and also Debian 11, and they are all working fine. But if you want to install Arch, this is one way to do it. So if you have any question, let me know in the comments below and I will try to answer you as soon as I can. So this is how you can install Arch Linux ARM on parallel desktop on a M1 Mac. Now, it's not a difficult process, it's the typical installation of Arch basically, with a few steps maybe. But as I said also in the video, there are many other distributions that you can install on Parallels Desktop on an M1 Mac like Debian or Fedora as well. So if you have any question about the video, let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so. This will help me a lot. And I'll see you very soon in the next video.